NEWS9 Plus. Download now.
Welcome to the NEWS9 Plus show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, NEWS9 Plus. Here are the top 9 headlines today. A major security breach took place during 0 hour in the Lok Sabha on the 22nd anniversary of the terror attack on India's parliament. 2 men entered parliament from the visitors' gallery, spraying smoke and leaping across desks to evade capture. Both men were overpowered by MPs and security staff. Earlier, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Draupadi Murmu led tributes to the 9 people killed in the 2001 attack. US President Joe Biden is not coming to India for the Republic Day parade in January 2024. The Quad summit, proposed to be held around that time, has reportedly been postponed to the latter part of 2024. Ravi Uppal, one of the 2 main owners of the 6,000 crore Mahadev online betting app, has been detained in Dubai on the basis of an Interpol notice. The Enforcement Directorate is probing the businessman in a money laundering case linked to alleged illegal betting through online apps. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has flagged the potential dangers of emerging technologies such as AI. He was speaking at the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence Summit in New Delhi. In other news, the UN General Assembly overwhelmingly passed a non-binding resolution demanding an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. Even as the United States and Israel voted against it, an overwhelming number of member states, including India, voted in favor of ending the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden said Israel has started to lose global support due to indiscriminate bombing in Gaza. The IDF continues its operations against Hamas, focusing both on Jabalia and Shejaila in northern Gaza and Khan Yunis in the south. Israel plans to send dogs, drones, robots and liquid explosives into Hamas's network of tunnels. Israel says destroying the tunnel network is a key objective of the ground siege, as these tunnels act as command sites, hiding rockets and ammunition. Yemen's Houthi militia group has again warned cargo ships in the Red Sea to avoid traveling towards the occupied Palestinian territories. Meanwhile, Hamas welcomed the UN demand for a humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza and urged the international community to continue pressurizing Israel to abide by the resolution. The COP28 climate talks in Dubai have ended in a deal that saw a commitment to transition away from all fossil fuels. The agreement calls for countries to quickly shift energy systems away from fossil fuels in a just and orderly fashion. Under the deal, countries have been urged to contribute to a global transition effort rather than being outright compelled to make that shift on their own. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's emergency bill to send asylum seekers to Rwanda has avoided defeat in Parliament. Despite the victory, the results show Sunak is struggling to maintain control over his Conservative party. Moderate Conservatives said they would not support the draft law if it meant that Britain would breach its human rights obligations. Right-wing politicians said it does not go far enough. On the 13th of December 2001, India's parliament was attacked. 5 terrorists breached the outer perimeter of parliament. They used a scar with fake VIP stickers. But these terrorists were gunned down before they could even enter Parliament building. Now exactly 22 years later, 2 men breached Parliament. They entered the well of the house, sprayed smoke inside the house, and very fortunately for us, these men were unarmed. But it raises serious questions on how they managed to do it. How did they breach one of the most secure buildings in India? Joining me to discuss this and many other questions this incident raises are 2 distinguished members of the national security community, Mr. Yashovardhan Jha Azad and Major General VK Datta. Gentlemen, welcome to the NEWS9 Plus show. My colleague Kartikeya Sharma joins us as well. Mr. Azad, my first question to you. Was this a failure of imagination? Given the fact that there have been previous instances of people misusing the visitors gallery, did we not anticipate that someone could actually jump out and do what they did today?
Well, two things. One is, of course, there should have been more, I would say, caution exercised on a day like this, because this is the 22nd anniversary of the Parliament attack. So carries a lot of significance, that's true. Secondly, I would say that this was not what you call a complete failure. This was a failure of the men on duty who failed completely to screen the persons properly.
Right.
Now, you understand that the guests of the MPs, the list is given to the Parliament, and on a particular designated day, they get passes. This was, of course, very well timed with the agitation they were having outside Transport Bhavan. That was a earlier plan, which perhaps the MP himself wouldn't have known. But the screening process itself in the Parliament, there is of course the outer layer. There's a 3-layer of security for all sensitive places, and so Parliament too. But in this particular case, where the security failed was at the point where these guests were being screened. So first, when they are screened through the DFMD, that is the door fail, metal detectors, where you find out whether there is anything on their body, a metallic or something which can be found out. Secondly is with the handheld metal detector, where again there is a second check. And third, if there is any doubt, then there is physical frisking. Now, this is the point where they fail. Now, the screening, etc., is done by the plainclothes men, the Parliament duty group. The outside security is done by the CPOs, the paramilitary or what you call the Central Police Forces, that is the CRPF, ITPP, etc. So at this particular point, the personal security men failed in clearing these people. The third point, which I would say, is that they had come absolutely predetermined, because they jumped down. The visitors gallery is also about 12 to 15 feet. And with those canisters which were carrying the smoke, the MPs who were nearby felt that sting. So if there was something more to it, something more poisonous or chemical, it would have been a very, very serious mishap. Thank God no one was hurt. But yes, I will say that it was a very serious breach which needs to be looked into.
Very serious breach indeed, and it's one of those days that we are grateful that those people had nothing more in mind than to just create a commotion there. But Kartikeya, take us back to where you were on this day 22 years ago.
See, I was working for a magazine. I was walking towards Parliament from the PTI building, and I heard, I wouldn't say heard shots, but I heard something like a cracker burst. And the first thought was, well, maybe people are bursting crackers. And at that point of time, Parliament Annexi and the Parliament, there were two different compounds. Yeah. So you had a road, so you understood, there was a busy vehicular traffic. You didn't have too many barricades between Railway Bhavan and Vijay Chowk. You could just park yourself outside with your mics to that area which was built during Indira Gandhi's tenure, from where the journalists would enter. Then I started walking fast, and I suddenly realized there was a guy, I think a CRPF, who was being thrown off the wall. And then I realized that the shooting has happened, because one of them said, "What are you doing here? Run away, terrorists are inside the complex." And by that time, I think the last shot had been fired, because I think it was after 20 minutes or 10 minutes that I heard a shot, and then later we came to know that SPG had actually shot the last terrorist. So instead of running towards my office, the first instinct was I ran towards the spot. So and the gates were shut. So what I did was I ran through Vijay Chowk, went past the main gate, but then a gentleman who was in charge, who was in PM security, then Prabhakar, he was there, and he caught hold of my hand, Prabhakar. And the second thing I realized that he was on me on the ground, right in front of the main gate of the Parliament. Right. Basically, he must have thought that the firing is still on. So everyone was lying down. And then I couldn't get up for next 1.5 hours, because everything shut. And I saw, after some time, columns of military come in. Right. That was something unexpected at point of time. Vijay Chowk, the military coming in, and those who were outside. Those who were inside couldn't come out, and it was it was surreal because people don't recall there was hours and days there was a talk of the missing terrorist then.
Yes.
The missing terrorist.
A sixth terrorist.
The sixth terrorist.
Yes.
So, the people just couldn't get people couldn't move for next 1.5 hours.
Right.
Till everything was sanitized. It was ensured that the bodies aren't booby trapped. Even then there was people had an idea, the terrorists can booby trap, the bodies. After that, people came out, and then we understood the enormity of the situation, that people have died, but they couldn't enter you see, this parliament is very different from the parliament which has been built now. This parliament does not allow for people to move in a triangle, you can't move like that. But in the earlier parliament, you could enter from gate number 4 and you can find yourself at gate number 12, or then you can go to the top floor, come back downstairs, and you can actually crisscross from one part of the parliament to other. The only two areas you were not allowed were the ways which connected the Lok Sabha chamber, which is Lok Sabha, and the Raj Sabha. But there was one way which connected one side of the parliament to the other, and that was one through which you could access the central hall. So, this parliament is different from...
There's a lot of access control over here. Yeah.
But and people also don't realize one thing. You couldn't have jumped like this in Lok Sabha.
Right.
You would have landed on the chairs.
Right.
Because in Lok Sabha, the older Lok Sabha, you would bang on top of the speaker.
Yeah.
This is more like Rajya Sabha, where you can see the chair.
Right.
That's how the Rajya Sabha in the older house is. But for them to jump, what surprises me is that there's a watch and watch staff which allows you to sit in a way. You sit like this. You can't sit like this.
Yes.
You can't sit with your legs crossed like that. Even if if you wanted to hear something, the watch and ward would say, "Dhyan se, apni pen piche kariye." Nothing should fall.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that there was no reaction when they got up and
That's right.
there was no reaction, and people don't understand one thing, that there is no security in the house.
When the house is in,
and the only security is there when the Prime Minister is in the house, because
Right.
only SPG is allowed to be in the house,
Right.
and you have those holding areas for the PMO officers.
Yes.
It is where the two SPG guys would sit,
Right.
3.
Yes.
They are the ones who carry the weapon. I'm just thinking, if PM was there,
Right.
and the SPG would have been there,
they possibly would have...
I don't know what would have happened.
Exactly. I mean, that's
because
nightmarish scenario there.
Yeah, absolutely, because they are allowed there.
Yes.
And if you look at this,
Yes.
MPs caught hold of them.
Right.
And
They were
also
overpowered by MPs. In fact, General Datta, I want to bring...
And gave them a good thrashing also.
I want to bring General Datta into this. People were just talking about precisely what you just mentioned. The fact that once these guys jumped into the well of the house and they were running around, they had a free run for a couple of minutes. And it was like, they were jumping over chairs and tables. And General Datta, what does this actually suggest? That how could they just run around so brazenly without being intercepted or, overpowered or, tased even?
I think Prabhakar has well covered that what would have happened if the SPG was there.
Yes.
And the same thing I told you, that when in 1984, the special group was tasked to take over the PM security, the Parliament House and the PM office. The commandos were armed. We were looking after all the 3 places, and there were orders to shoot a man's state if something happened.
Right.
And that is what, since I was there that point in time in special group looking after the PM security and all these areas, there would have been a clean headshot without taking any chance.
Okay.
Because you cannot take a chance with the PM, being in the well,
Yes.
or for that matter, even any other member parliament.
Right.
Now the next question is that how did these guys run amok and they were not intercepted by the watch and ward staff?
Yes.
While you do not have armed people inside, but like you have common bouncers all over the place in bars, and various actors are carrying bouncers with them. You need somebody to put down a man physically.
Yes.
Whether he is part of the parliament or it's people jumping into the well or trying to throw a shoe at the speaker.
Yes.
So that kind of arrangement has to be there, and maybe they'll have to give a very serious thought to this. You cannot have people running, jumping over the tables,
Right.
and the members of the house are trying to apprehend this person.
Absolutely. Hold that thought. We'll be back after a very short break.
He thought he could outlast us. And 1 year later, the evidence is right here in this room.
Who will blink first?
So far from preventing the expansion of NATO, Russian actions have actually resulted in the expansion of NATO.
It's a mess for Russia and it's a mess for the Western world, for NATO and the United States.
Putin is a dictator, and if he loses, that means the end of his regime, and probably of him personally. So he has to keep going.
Year 2. No end in sight. Streaming now.
Bangalore traffic is an example of something that has gone wrong with our system.
We have more than 50 flyovers in Bangalore city. If flyover is a solution to traffic problem, Bangalore should not have traffic problem.
According to TomTom Traffic Index 2022, Bangalore is ranked as the second worst city in the world when it comes to traffic.
The speed limit at the ORR is 80 kilometers per hour, but our vehicle has only moved 10 kilometers per hour.
What Bangalore needs is a surgery, but what we have been offered repeatedly are band-aids.
Only on the world's first news OTT. NEWS9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
In fact, I want to bring in Mr. Azad here at this point. You said, it's a very egregious breach of security. There's no two ways about it. It's probably one of the worst breaches of security that we've seen in the last few decades. What are the kind of measures that you would like to see? What is the kind of questions that the inquiry committee will now look into, Mr. Azad? And what is the kind of action you'd like to see now?
Some of the basic principles of VIP security is that, you have to neutralize the threat at every level.
Right.
So where do you neutralize the threat? The threat coming from outside, in what form will it come? Will it come in a physical form? Will it come in a different form? So that is how you start doing an inquiry. So where was the failure? The failure came when the personal screening was found short.
Right.
Why was it found short? Is it because of the quality of the personnel? Is it because of their forgetfulness? Is it because of lack of professionalism? Is it because of faulty technical equipment? Or is it because there is a failure to perceive some outside element of threat? For example, if you are passing through a metal detector and you have this canister, if it's made of plastic, will it be detected by the door frame metal detector, which only detects metals? So the question is, these are the 4 areas where I would like to inquire. And the most important is, are these security personnel really alive to the situation? Can they, there are many other ways. You see, in the airport, you see people coming at least 15 feet before they are frisked to the actual person. That's the time when you watch the person, see his gait. Is there something wrong with his shoe? Right. Is there something wrong with his belt? These are things which you have to look into. But I would firmly put the blame on those personnel. It was lackadaisical. It was shorn of professionalism, and therefore they need to be trained. They need to be really geared up to protect the Parliament House. That's the most important.
So it's Kartikeya, as Mr. Azad was saying, it seems like a human failure over here. I mean, Parliament seems to have the best of physical security in terms of door frame detectors and tire slashers and CCTVs, but the human element that he mentioned, so important in averting attacks and assaults like this.
I'm just, there's something called premeditation of crime,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking if there were two people outside and there were two people inside, then it means that it was a four-way conversation.
Right.
If it was a four-way conversation, it was a conspiracy.
Yes.
So, and you don't directly get admitted. You can't blame the member of parliament because thousands of people would say, "Mujhe aaj parliament jana hai, no, I want to go to central secretariat, nahi mera wo kaam, hospital jana hai, AIIMS." So it's very difficult to pin him down. He would sign it. But these people are vetted by intelligence. I am a PIB card holder.
Yes.
Tomorrow I can get my parliament pass made. I don't have a parliament pass, but as per my seniority, I have covered 10 years of Lok Sabha. I can get a permanent pass within 48 hours.
Right.
But these people who are not vetted by MHA, which needs to be vetted. So first thing which struck me as a journalist was, boss, were they vetted?
Yes.
One. Secondly, if they were vetted, there was no check on their antecedents. I don't think they are like Greenpeace activists. I don't think so.
Right.
Those were the words they didn't use.
Yes.
I really don't want to get into it and impress any meaning in front of our audience. Let police come out with an official version.
Yes.
They said something which was political. That's number two. Number three is there is not one level of check. As Mr. Azad said, there are multiple levels of checks.
layers.
For example, Parliament has a very unique system. You are checked at the gate, then you are checked at this, then when you go inside, then you are checked.
There are at least 5 layers of security.
And then you are checked when you are going towards the galleries. So two people frisk you at the same time. So one is sitting like this. So he will be taking care of your belt and below.
Right.
The other person will be standing. So you are frisked simultaneously.
Right.
He would frisk you from here and simultaneously frisking takes place here.
Yes.
So my understanding is that at a level, this is one, frisking was not done properly. And secondly, it's an intelligence issue.
Yes.
They are making a statement in the Parliament of India on the day of 13th December.
Yeah, in fact, General Datta, this is a very important point here. And we've kept emphasizing the fact that it was the 22nd anniversary of the Parliament attack. And then you have, not so long ago, Mr. Gurpatwant Pannu threatening to attack Parliament. And despite all of this, on a day like this, you let an incident like this happen. I mean, it points to a very serious
and they rigged
failure.
the rules. They rigged the rules. They're not trespassers. They used the rules and they jumped.
Exactly like what they did in 2001. They used the VIP stickers on the cars to breach Parliament security. So they've actually used the Parliament rules only to get inside, and in 2001 and in 2023. And fortunately, nothing happened.
Yes.
Today.
Yeah, Sandeep. I'll just come in. What Mr. Kartikeya has said is very correct. Now the thing is that for the Parliament staff, there are regular exercises which are held to put them through various situations. To the extent that the National Disaster Management Authority also carries out a training in CBRN.
Yes.
Chemical, biological, radiological issues. Now, let's say that this was a chemical stick. You know, anything which emits smoke, whether it's phosphorus or otherwise, is a chemical.
Right.
That means a chemical has gone inside the Parliament House.
Correct.
Yes.
What were the staff who has been trained in CBRN doing?
Right.
Why were not they able, or why were they not trained or put in place to carry out a check for any CBRN? You even have dogs, sniffer dogs, who can check out a chemical.
Absolutely.
We have sensors which can check out a chemical.
That's another big breach. I mean, the fact that they could get that chemical inside without being detected.
And then you are aware that when there is a high threat level, even in the airport, they make you take off your shoes.
Yes.
Especially the shoes which are slightly having a thick sole, or they have a suspicious look. They make you take them out. And the person who's frisking you checks them through the X-ray and also physically. Right. And then when you talk about the incident, 13 December 2001.
Yes.
And 13 December today, warnings been given by Gurpatwant Singh.
Yes.
What happened in Yom Kippur in Israel? What happened on the 7th of October?
Yes.
Same thing. Same situation. You are in a situation where there is an event.
Yes.
Where something has happened in the history, in the past, and the people will try to hit you then to tell you that you stand and where you stand.
And I'm afraid we're totally out of time, General Datta. And, on a day like this, we can only pray once again at our good fortune that nothing happened. It was just two stupid people trying to stage a protest.
And people fail to understand that a trained person can weaponize anything,
Yes.
You can
use objects around them,
weaponize your finger.
Yes.
You can weaponize a pen.
Yeah.
You can weaponize that laptop.
Right.
You can weaponize anything if you want to kill someone.
Yes.
So I mean to say,
a breach is a breach.
A breach is a breach.
Absolutely.
Imagine if a trained commando would have dropped.
Yes.
He would have weaponized anything.
Right.
I think that
and
enormity of the situation
very fortunate,
is not...
Kartikeya, that we didn't have any trained commandos. I mean, that's one of our good fortunes, that this incident, while as serious as it wasn't worse than this. Right. Thank you very much, Kartikeya, and thank you, General Datta. We'll keep coming back to you for news and updates on the NEWS9 Plus show. Keep watching us. In 2008, BSP Supremo Mayawati declared in her biography that her political heir would not be from her family. Well, 15 years is a long time in politics, and Behenji has had a rethink since then. She recently anointed her nephew, Akash Anand, as her political successor. Our story, Family Planning, decodes how India's politicians like to keep it within the family. Let's watch.
ये जो विरासत और वारसा बारिश के रूप में चल रहा है, डायनेस्टी के रूप में चल रहा है, कोई डायनेमिक्स है ही नहीं। एक परिवार के लोग ही उस पार्टी के अध्यक्ष बने, उस पार्टी का पार्लियामेंट्री बोर्ड बने। अब देखिए हिंदुस्तान की बर्बादी कहाँ से हो रही है। जम्मू कश्मीर से शुरू करिए, पंजाब में देखिए, आप हरियाणा में देखिए, उत्तर प्रदेश देखिए, झारखंड देखिए, आप तमिलनाडु में जाइए, ये परिवार ही पार्टी चलाता है। ये लोकतंत्र के लिए बहुत से बड़ा खतरा है।
I don't see why you people have a problem with a lineage. And why just in politics?
As Nepo kids, we really don't get that much of an opportunity to prove ourselves.
Can a lawyer's son be a good lawyer? Yes. I consider it an affront to democracy.
In one statement, Mr. Modi is able to kill two birds, two of his opponents at the national level and at the state level.
BSP chief Mayawati declared in her 2008 biography that her political heir would not be from her family. 15 years down the line, the four-time Uttar Pradesh chief minister has just anointed her nephew Akash Anand as her political successor. The decision comes at a time when the BJP has picked up three unexpected faces as chief ministers for three states in the Hindi heartland, unleashing a new crop of leaders ahead of the 2024 Lok Sabha polls.
Politics in India is often viewed as a privileged family heirloom, handed down to sons, daughters, spouses and nephews. While the Nehru-Gandhi family often dominates the discourse about dynasty, the culture of nepotism prevails across political parties and regions. From the Abdullahs of Kashmir to the Karunanidhis of Tamil Nadu, the Scindias and the Yadavs in the Hindi heartland, to the Sangmas in the northeast, India has about 34 powerful political families.
Dynasties have been important in Indian politics, and they've been particularly important because there are two types of dynasties. One have been political dynasties, like Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, his father Motilal Nehru ji was in Congress politics, then he came in, and then his daughter becomes Prime Minister, and Indira Gandhi's son Rajiv Gandhi becomes Prime Minister. The question mark comes after the death or the murder and killing of Rajiv Gandhi, when Sonia Gandhi is not able to take it over directly, but she stays the power behind the throne. And then Rahul Gandhi has not been able to take the mantle of the Congress party, but he remains their most important leader, and there's Priyanka Gandhi also coming.
I consider it an affront to democracy. We are the world's largest democracy. The perpetuation of political dynasties, not on merit but on the accident of birth, is fundamentally antithetical to democracy. Let's be clear. And it also spawns, nurtures an atmosphere of unacceptable psychophancy. It stifles inner party democracy.
What would be the credibility of Mr. Omar Abdullah were he not the son of his father? And similarly for Farooq Abdullah, who was Dr. Farooq Abdullah, least interested in politics, I think nowhere near the stature of a Sheikh Abdullah, who was a genuine people's leader and a peasant leader and built the political capital.
I don't see why you people have a problem with a lineage, and why just in politics. Why don't you have a problem with lineage when it's in other fields? Why don't you have a problem with lineage when it's in business? You don't seem to have a problem when the big industrial families of this country hand over their businesses worth hundreds and thousands of crores to their children. You don't seem to have any problem with that. Film stars, singers, actors, actresses, again, you don't have a problem. But you have a problem with politicians, particularly with politicians who subject themselves to the will of the people.
Mr. Akhilesh Yadav is a dynast. Mr. Stalin is a dynast. Mr. Dhumal's son is a dynast. So, even Abhishek Bachchan is a dynast. I mean, that's how India runs.
Today, she is the only smiling leader in Rajasthan. All eyes will be on her moves if the BJP returns to power.
Vasundhara Raje Scindia defied all the odds to become the first woman chief minister of Rajasthan.
She has the uncanny ability of striking rapport with all sections. That's why she is very popular in her constituency, not only in her constituency but in entire Rajasthan.
This and more, streaming on world's first news OTT, NEWS9 Plus. Download now.
Since the last 2 years, Khalistani terror groups are threatening Indian diplomats in Canada, US, UK and Australia. Investigations of these threats led us to the first ever abduction and killing of an Indian diplomat, Ravindra Matre, in UK's Birmingham in 1984. Our months-long investigation finally led us to the murderer of Ravindra Matre, who has been hiding in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir for the last 40 years. Watch our exclusive documentary, Murder of an Indian Diplomat, where we reveal the man who killed Ravindra Matre.
Stop searching, start streaming. Download the world's first news OTT, NEWS9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
वर्ष 2070 तक भारत नेट जीरो का लक्ष्य हासिल करेगा.
There is certainly a wall of capital coming into the clean tech, climate tech space, not just in India but across the world.
This and more, streaming on world's first news OTT, NEWS9 Plus. Download now.
Over the years, some of the prominent dynasts of the Congress party and other regional parties have bitten the dust. For instance, Rahul Gandhi in Amethi the erstwhile Congress stronghold, and Yadavs in Uttar Pradesh. The recent crisis, triggered by Eknath Shinde in the Shiv Sena and Ajit Pawar in the NCP, has dealt a body blow to the two political dynasties from Maharashtra, the Thakres and the Pawars. Yet, a record 1/3 of parliamentarians in the existing Lok Sabha are dynasts. It was 20% in 2004, while 44% of the Congress MPs are dynasts. The BJP is not far behind, with 25% of its Lok Sabha MPs being dynasts.
Sometimes there may be internal battles within a family itself. In Akhilesh Yadav's family, almost, the uncle Ram Gopal Yadav has been fighting elections. Shivpal Yadav is now in another camp. His wife Dimple Yadav ji fought the elections. At the local level, Dharmendra ji is also active in politics. So many families have it like this. The battle is not to be chief minister and definitely not the prime minister, but the local assembly level, the hereditary inheritance of assembly level loyalties are placed within families.
The dynasts have thrived in India, perhaps because politics involves spending a lot of money. Barring the Aam Aadmi Party, one cannot name any political startup that has emerged in the last 10 years.
As per a study that I had done for Patrick French's book called India, and there, he had concluded that about 25 to 30% of elected representatives from civic polls to parliament were second or third generation dynasts. Because of the centuries of a kind of monarchical rule, etc., and then followed by the British rule. We are temperamentally have this kind of my baap culture. We give a lot of importance to a particular person or personality.
Amount of money that is involved now in elections and campaigns and so on. When they go out campaigning, they always have a family member accompanying them. Maybe because they have to handle, the financial part of it, arranging the rallies, arranging the funding, arranging the cars, arranging, so many logistical arrangements. I think that's how it has evolved as a family business. And, virtually every party today, if you look at them, all of them are family-run parties.
As Nepo kids, we really don't get that much of an opportunity to prove ourselves. We are generally believed they are the ones born with silver spoon, golden spoon, diamond studded spoon, whatever spoon that they want to call. So we often don't get an opportunity to prove ourselves.
Can a lawyer's son be a good lawyer? Yes. It's his capability. Can a doctor's son be a good doctor? Yes. Can a press reporter's son be a good reporter? Yes. There have been multiple cases in diverse fields where people have done well, and I think in politics also it's not an easy task. If you are there, if you are helping people, people's sentiments are with you, I think people elect you back. If not, we have seen dynasties just wiping away.
We have to fight for our existence in front of our own family members, Chirag Paswan will not be compared to any other leader from my state or any other politician. I'll be directly and only compared to my father only. And they'll put me down in reference to my father only. So these are these saying, "Arey, Paswan ji to bahut अच्छे थे, but Chirag वैसा नहीं है. Paswan ji to बहुत मिलनसार थे. Chirag, he's little arrogant. Paswan ji के तो घर के दरवाजे सबके लिए खुले रहते थे, but Chirag, no, he's very reluctant." So they'll use your father's name only to put you down.
BJP, it's always been there. Remember this. Mr. Modi made a criticism of this, but I would say Rajmata Vijaya Raje was always there. And I have found that most important political leaders, Vajpayee ji of course did not have a family, Mr. Narendra Modi does not have a family, but a lot of the important political leaders have their sons in politics. And so it's something that cannot be denied that, Mr. Anurag Singh Thakur is an example of his father being in politics and he being in politics.
So although right at the top, the BJP may not be a dynast rule party, and I think that's largely because the BJP is guided and mentored and to some extent, I think, controlled by the RSS, which has prevented it from becoming a family-run party. But certainly, at the lower levels in Lok Sabha constituencies, in Vidhan Sabha constituencies, we see many BJP dynast families. But even the BJP at state level, we've seen, how many senior political leaders have their sons and daughters in politics, either as MPs or as MLAs. Rajnath Singh, for instance, his son is an MP. There's so many of them.
But the BJP does have quite a few leaders now who are carved from their own political trajectories, and they haven't had a history of a father or anybody else propelling them. Shivraj Singh Chauhan is a great example. Pushkar Singh Dhami in Uttarakhand is a great example. Mr. Yogi Adityanath is a great example. Narendra Modi ji, when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat, then also becomes Prime Minister. His famous speech was, I remember having heard before the 2012 elections, where he said, "Mara bapa to sarpancho na tha." And I think it does hit at people when you tell them that, look, from an ordinary person I can become Chief Minister, from an ordinary person I can become this.
In many Western democracies, like the USA, there are examples of second generation politicians. For example, the Bush family and the Kennedy family, to name a few. But the third and fourth generation politicians is primarily an Asian phenomenon. Not just in India, countries like Japan, Bangladesh, Pakistan and Sri Lanka have many examples of political families. In the Philippines, more than 60% of the country's House of Representatives have been made of dynastic clans.
So dynasty is very integral. Unless we have electoral reforms, we cannot eradicate dynasty. The BJP is full of dynasty culture. It is willing to who is Ajit Pawar? What is Ajit Pawar's claim to fame? There is a whole political culture that Mr. Modi or no other political party has been able to break. I mean, Aam Aadmi Party is very new. We will see it, after 10 years when the, dynasty can come in.
I mean, in fact, I think the only party that is left which is not ruled by a dynast, does not follow this, tradition of dynast families, is the CPM, which, I can't think of anybody whose child is in politics, amongst left parties.
आज भारत कह रहा है डायनेस्टी क्विट इंडिया, यानी परिवारवाद, इंडिया छोड़ो.
Modi ji is only questioning the political dynasty. And why he is doing this? Because you have to see that with one principle, he is able to attack two types of opponents. One is the Congress party, which has the strongest history of political lineage and political dynasty, and the others are regional parties. The regional parties are family parties. So in one statement, Mr. Modi is able to kill two birds, two of his opponents at the national level and at the state level, both together. And that's why we are talking about the issue, because Mr. Modi is raising this against both.
For now, the culture of political dynasty doesn't seem to be going away despite PM Modi attacking them. Most of these politicians are powerful and will matter in 2024 elections as well, especially with the kind of alliances that have come up in recent times.
Lawrence Bishnoi is one of India's most notorious gangsters. He's lodged in India's biggest prison, Tihar. But over the last few months, Bishnoi has managed to threaten Salman Khan and murder pop star Sidhu Moosewala. Let's watch the story by Deepak Badhana on how Bishnoi runs his gang from behind bars.
India's most high-profile prison, the Tihar jail, is now the headquarters of the country's most notorious crime syndicate. Lodged within these walls is a man who was once a rising student leader, a national level athlete, and an aspiring politician. Today he is India's most dangerous gangster. You know him as Lawrence Bishnoi. And India's presence, but apparently no bar to how Bishnoi runs India's largest criminal empire. On December 6, 2023, the city of Jaipur in Rajasthan was up in flames. Angry mobs blocked roads, dodged tires, bringing the city to a halt. The reason? One day ago on 5th December, two shooters gunned down Sri Rajput Karni Sena chief Sukhdev Singh Gogaberi in his own home. The accused were associated with the Lawrence Bishnoi group. The orders for the hit came from their leader, Lawrence Bishnoi.
I think it is very important to take Lawrence Bishnoi very, very seriously, especially in view of the fact that this is someone who is sitting inside our jails and is still very obviously and openly running what may be among the, at least the most visible and possibly the largest organized criminal operation in the country.
As on gate, it appears that Lawrence gang is the most important, the prominent gang. And I'm sure that Lawrence Bishnoi, as on date, he can say that I'm that kind of Don ki 19 मुल्कों की पुलिस मुझको ढूंढती रह जाएगी और they are intimidated.
Today, Bishnoi operates a group that is spread globally and is involved in drug and gun running, extortion and murder. But this gang lord's story actually begins in the small nondescript village of Dutranwali in Punjab's Firozpur district.
Look, Lawrence Bishnoi basically belongs to a district called Fasalka here, that's in Punjab only, Firozpur, part of Firozpur it was, now I think it's a separate district. Belongs to a very well-to-do family and there's no shortage or dearth of money, etc., etc.
Lawrence's father was a constable with the Haryana police. The family was decently well off, owning huge tracts of land in the area. Affectionately known as Milky for his fair complexion, Lawrence was a decent student and he was good at sports too. But this was Punjab. As a college student, Bishnoi would become involved in student politics. And thus he began his journey to national infamy.
स्टूडेंट लाइफ तो उसकी चंडीगढ़ में थी और MCM DAV स्कूल का पढ़ा हुआ है, बाद में स्टूडेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ पंजाब यूनिवर्सिटी में सोपूगा एक्टिंग प्रेसिडेंट टाइप भी रहा है और काफ़ी उसका बड़ा सर्कल है, एकेडमिक रिकॉर्ड तो उसका काफ़ी ठीक था.
Lawrence Bishnoi I know as a student leader. He had contested the election at DAV College in Chandigarh, Sector 10, and I think it was about 7-8 years ago, just about 7-8 years ago, or maybe around that time. And even in there, he was in the college also. He was known to be not a prankster, some troublemaker. He was a troublemaker, getting into fights with people, not coming to the class, not treating the teachers very well, and even the staff in DAV College, the administrative staff, they also remember.
उसके बाद वही स्टूडेंट पॉलिटिक्स में जो टिपिकल हमने देखा है कि लड़ाई हो गई, लड़ाई हुई, केसेस और मल्टीपल हो गए और जेल जाने पे और लोगों से एसोसिएशन हो गई और ये तो एक ऐसा एक चक्कर है कि एक बार आप इसमें नेगेटिव साइड पे आ जाओ तो निकलना काफ़ी मुश्किल हो जाता है.
He got himself promoted from smaller crimes to bigger crimes and getting himself involved, and then he formed his own gang. It's not that he joined some gang. No, he himself became one and then attracted a lot of other people also with him. And Now he is known to be one of the most dangerous gangs in Punjab.
पंजाबी गायक सिद्धू मूसेवाला की गोली मारकर हत्या कर दी गई, ये जानकारी मिल रही है। बदमाशों ने मानसा में सिद्धू मूसेवाला को गोली मारी है। कल ही पंजाब सरकार ने हटाई थी मूसेवाला की सुरक्षा।
Bishnoi first rose to national attention for the sensational murder of Punjabi musician Sidhu Moosewala in May 2022. That murder too was orchestrated from within prison. Almost overnight, Bishnoi became a media sensation. Videos emerged of Bishnoi even threatening Bollywood actor Salman Khan.
जब हम करेंगे तो पता लग ही जाएगा। सलमान खान का करेंगे, मारेंगे यहीं जोधपुर में मारेंगे तो पता लग जाएगा इनको। अभी तो मैंने कुछ किया ही नहीं, बिना मतलब कोई इन्वॉल्व कर रहे हैं।
As the head of India's most infamous crime syndicate, Bishnoi reputedly commanded the services of a kind of a private army. Different reports state its strength at some 500, 700, even 1,000 shooters. But the Lawrence Bishnoi group is not your typical criminal organization.
उसकी खुद की इंटरोगेशन में चीज़ें काफ़ी सामने आई हैं। बड़े यूथ हैं जो वायलेंस से, क्राइम से इनेमर हो जाते हैं और उनको एक इसमें भी कई बार चार्म नज़र आती है, जो बड़े इम्प्रेशनेबल यूथ होते हैं उस उम्र में, या उम्र का तकाजा समझ सकते हो आप। अब क्योंकि सोशल मीडिया है, बड़े सारे गैंग्स के सोशल मीडिया पेजेस हैं, उनका एक बड़ी फॉलोइंग है, तो इसमें हमने देखा है कि बहुत यूथ हैं जो तमाम जो गैंगस्टर्स हैं इनको फेसबुक, इंस्टा इस पे फॉलो करते हैं। तो उसकी अपनी इंटरोगेशन में काफ़ी सामने आया कि काफ़ी जो लड़के हैं नए से नए उनके गैंग को ज्वाइन करते रहते हैं।
You see, by and large, these are not groups, they are affiliations. They are friends operating together. There is a small core. And beyond that, they keep on expanding their affiliations and relationships. A lot of them are relationships. Many of Bishnoi's associates today are people he was in jail with. And they go out and they continue to maintain contacts. And when a job needs to be done, you sort of throw the net wide across this fairly large collection of acquaintances and friends, and find out who is willing and who is the most suitable for a particular operation. And that's how it's done. So it's not as if you've got, it's not structured like, for instance, the idea we have of the Italian mafia. I don't even know how accurate our idea of the Italian mafia is, but that does seem to have a very strong structure. They are clear individuals, there is a hierarchy. We don't see that here. We see even among what is called the Bishnoi group, and you have Goldie Brar. Now, is Goldie Brar Bishnoi's subordinate? He's not. He's an independent actor who seems to be in continuous interaction with and association with Bishnoi. So, calling this the Bishnoi gang is I think a simplification that helps us speak of the problem. But it isn't a gang in that sense of a structured organization with a continuous existence. It is rather a set of loose affiliations with periodically shared objectives. So I do what I do, but when you want to call on me, I'm available.
Bishnoi masterminds all this from within the environs of some of India's most secure prisons. He's active on social media, relaying orders and claiming responsibility remotely. From there, he even managed to give an interview to a major news channel in March 2023.
How can it conceivably be, and this is, I think, almost a year now since the Bishnoi interviews? Yeah. We are still not able to identify where he was interviewed and which officers are responsible. So then beyond that, how much greater impunity can a criminal even aspire to? So the problem is not Bishnoi. The problem is this environment of enablers.
So how do we understand the Lawrence Bishnoi phenomena? According to Bishnoi himself, he went to prison as a student leader. It was in prison, he says, that he became the gangster that we all know. Today, there are over 36 criminal cases against him in Punjab, Chandigarh, Haryana, Rajasthan and Delhi. The charges include contract killing, attempted murder, causing hurt, possession of illegal firearms, extortion and snatching. 21 of these cases are still sub judice, while he has been acquitted in 9 and convicted in 6 cases.
Look, at a certain level, we must understand that he has become the most prominent, as you say, the poster boy, the face. He reflects, however, I would like to suggest a much wider phenomenon. He's not the only one. There are so many others who are part of this global web that of organized crime, overlapping in part with terrorist, especially the Khalistani terrorist groupings. But also notice that most of these killings are related to other incidents of killings, rivalries with a variety of other gangs, almost all of which have a global or a foreign outreach.
The COP28 summit in Dubai has ended with no clear commitment to phase out fossil fuels. Let's watch why COP28 was a flop.
Working overtime, the delegates at COP28 have now produced a new draft of the centerpiece agreement at the climate summit in Dubai. This document makes an unprecedented mention of transitioning away from fossil fuels. While this has been hailed by some as the beginning of the end for fossil fuels, there are still issues aplenty. Today we look at why COP28, hailed as a make or break moment for global climate action, may ultimately be a failure. One of the central controversies revolves around the absence of explicit language regarding the phasing out of fossil fuels. The new draft agreement has been welcomed, but it does not call for the world to phase out coal, oil and gas, as more than 100 countries had hoped, and instead includes loopholes that would allow for their use even beyond 2050. The previous draft didn't even include the term fossil fuels in the COP decision text, except for references to oil and gas subsidies, drawing criticism from climate negotiators, activists and nations who were advocating for bolder action. The leadership of COP28, particularly COP President Sultan Al Jaber, who also heads the UAE's national oil company, has faced allegations of bias. Some countries perceive the COP president as an unreliable broker, especially considering the opposition from oil and gas producing nations. Closed-door talks and a lack of transparency further contribute to a climate of mistrust. The global stocktake, intended to be a cornerstone of COP28, faces challenges in reaching a comprehensive agreement. The assessment of countries' progress since the Paris Agreement has encountered difficulties in addressing gaps and formulating a cohesive plan for future action. Negotiators are no doubt under immense pressure to produce a meaningful outcome. The absence of clear directives and the delay in producing a detailed draft text have heightened concerns about the conference's effectiveness. In conclusion, COP28 is grappling with controversies surrounding fossil fuel language, leadership bias, and challenges in key components like the GST. The failure to produce a clear pathway for phasing out fossil fuels and the perceived lack of ambition in the draft text are significant setbacks, raising doubts about the effectiveness of the summit in addressing the escalating climate crisis.
BrahMos. Stealthy, lethal, precise. It flies at 3 times the speed of sound.